Welcome to the Rewarded Consumer Podcast. My name is Michael, and I have a general passion to get more rewards out of my everyday financial activities. I wanted to share this passion with you to help give information on tools that can help get more out of these mundane everyday activities. I am joined today by a group of my friends who also have a similar interest.
Hey, I'm Pete. I'm here to learn and possibly even share useful experiences from my financial decisions as well.
Hi, I'm Stas. I have an interest in technology and finance, so let's explore this world together.
Hi, my name is Jan. I have a technical background, but would like to explore the thoughts that my friends have around financial aspects such as credit cards and other reward programs.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Rewarded Consumer Podcast. It's another prediction week. I know it might be a little later than the beginning of the year here for the predictions, but I think it's going to be relevant for the whole year. These series of 3 episodes are going to predict what we think is going to happen in the year, and then we're going to go back to the end of the year and figure out if the trends were actually what we predicted or not. And I think it'll be really cool, kind of like a time machine of predictions. We will be joined with a guest contributor, which we'll have introduced at the beginning by Mr. Pete here, who's with us today. This topic today is going to be about restaurants and what the food trend in restaurants are going to probably be and how we're going to reward ourselves and maybe doing different ways of thinking of what a restaurant is. So, Pete, I'm going to let you take it away with introducing Repeat.
Okay, our guest contributor is my brother, Zach. He has some ideas of where he's seeing things going and, what's happened from last year onwards. He was talking about how there's been a trend now, at least in the restaurant world, of really streamlining their menus, just getting those more popular items that they're seeing taking off, keeping with those and just cutting out or trimming most of the fat of the menus. And I know that's a trend that you guys might see in Food Network shows or something like that, where someone's coming in and telling a restaurant they need to do this and just focus on that. There needs to really just be a focus of restaurants about what their customers want now and not waste their time and money on items they don't need anymore. Obviously, there's going to be different trends during a pandemic versus when people are a little bit more active again and being able to go where they want to without as much difficulty. He's also wanted to bring up the outdoor dining options. I know that varies from state to state or even country to country for that matter. Here in the South is much different than maybe the Midwest at the moment, but I don't know, guys. What are you guys seeing? Are your guys' restaurants, have they started offering more outdoor dining again? Are they closed up now? What's going on?
The Chicagoland has introduced indoor dining again at 25%. So that's, I guess, a partial solution. I mean, the whole pandemic basically caught the whole restaurant with their pants down, basically, and not a really good alternative model. Yeah, we have some outdoor dining, but it's really hard in a wintry climate, especially today since it's snowing as we record this episode. It's next to impossible to predict how that's going to do. So honestly, the delivery model is really taking off here, more or less, delivery takeout model. But I think people are starting to get more eager to go back in because it's hurting, it's hurting business, it's hurting people's jobs, livelihoods, and all that stuff. So I don't know. Stas, how's Indianapolis
I'm not
doing?
sure how they necessarily decide. I haven't really been following the reports from the governor as much as I did at the beginning of the pandemic. So now we have some restaurants I know that do have indoor dining. I'm not sure if there's a limit to capacity or how that works. Some have just put up their chairs and tables and don't have any. It's takeout only. Some have outdoor seating, some don't, depending on location for them and if they have the space for it. I'm not really sure how they decide which way to go. I think part of it depends on what you feel is comfortable. Like some people are out and about going inside to restaurants. I personally, for now, I'm just sticking to takeout only with my wife. We don't feel safe enough yet to go inside. But on the other hand, we were just talking about it recently so we did a takeout and then we noticed, yeah, the food is good, but you're still kind of missing out on the atmosphere and the being inside the restaurant experience. So at some point it would be nice to go back. We just don't feel like it's a safe enough time right now, but hopefully soon. We don't know, obviously, when will that be? Will it be in a month, 2 months, a year? Hopefully sooner rather than later, but right now it's kind of a blend here.
That actually brings up another topic that Zach, the guest contributor, brought up to me as well, about some of these restaurants. I want to call one specifically out. Chuck E. Cheese actually, saw a decline in their business because they need people in their, restaurant / entertainment centers. So they started kind of advertising themselves under the name Pasquale's or Pascale's. I'm not sure how it's actually said properly, but that is one of their fictional characters years, and they kind of advertised themselves as a pizza and wing place so that they could actually get some business and people actually buying their food. So that was a kind of a funny thing that happened kind of towards the beginning of the pandemic so that they could still operate and still sell food.
I mean, you're talking about the whole ghost kitchen idea, right?
Correct.
For those of you guys that don't know what a ghost kitchen is, it's basically the idea behind like mainstream restaurants would like kind of either lease out their space to have another restaurant just use the kitchen, or it's a restaurant within a restaurant. Like the restaurant will have basically two offerings, and one is let's say like there's a place here in Evanston called Prairie Moon that's like a American fare, you know, a little bit fancier American fare, the bar and all that stuff. And they made a sister restaurant, but it's literally only takeout. It's using the same kitchens, and it's called Pasta Luna, which, you know, does the same takeaway on that. I think even Chili's is doing it. Like they're doing like a wing place only. I don't remember 100% about Chili's, but I know they are doing the ghost kitchen. But a lot of companies are taking advantage of this right now because if we're all just doing takeout and all that stuff, why do we need all the space? I mean, they can actually even possibly expand out into the dining area, because who knows when dining is going to be back up to normal again. Maybe it makes more sense financially to, you know, take more space out or utilize the space in a different manner. Just want to turn back. Jan, I know you're in Kansas City. How is the trend in Kansas City right now?
It's pretty surprising, actually. So I got back to Kansas City about a week ago, and while I was driving around, I noticed that the restaurant packed, like clearly packed. But if you walk into a restaurant, you see that they're trying to keep like social distancing, so they will keep like a table blocked between areas where people sit. So I think it's about probably between 50 to 75% capacity in restaurants here in that area. I think people are just tired of being at home and being social distance from their family or friends. So that's why people are probably getting more into the restaurants now. That's what I've noticed.
Let's say I probably would be different. I mean, I think even because as I said, I have as I mentioned last episode, I have a 7-week-old. And even if we didn't have the pandemic, I probably wouldn't be going out and doing stuff. So I'm more high alert because I can't afford to get him because we can't protect him. Also putting two of us in that situation, it's not comfortable. I don't want to have to have a mask on the whole time. It's just not enjoyable. So I'd rather be at home, you know, trying to have a meal. I mean, it's not easy these days right now. But in general, like, I think that's why kind of trend. And it's been, I mean, for the last couple of years, I've even more trended not to go out because I just don't find the intrinsic value. But then sometimes it's nice to get the heck out of the house, go to the brewery, go get a beer, you know, because I have a brewery 2 blocks from here, and we can go get out and get a beer. You know, if a friend's in town, we're going to go to the brewery and get the beer. We're not going to just sit at the house.
Mike, you frequently bring this up. We also have a talk at once a week as well because we're friends outside of the podcast. And, you know, Mike has mentioned numerous times us all cooking a meal together. Has anybody done any virtual cooking classes?
So I have not, but so my wife works at a company where previously, before COVID, they would have visitors from out of town. And for one night, they tried to organize, I forget what they call it, but basically have some volunteers take some of the participants and have just a meal with them. So they were trying to replace that with kind of a virtual setting where maybe they would cook a meal, not necessarily as a cooking class, but just make a meal, sit down, talk, and just talk virtually.
That seems to be, you know, what some people are doing just to kind of, you know, get some ideas, because people would be doing this kind of like a little party atmosphere otherwise. So I wasn't sure if that was becoming a trend amongst any of your guys' other friends.
Well, we still need to do it, guys. I think we need to do it. Let's figure out the cuisine, and we'll get it done at some point, because so I don't see us really leaving the houses that quickly, especially here in Chicagoland, because it's damn cold. Me, it's kind of like it's actually a release after work, especially, you know, and nice to kind of just cook, maybe have a little bit to drink while you're cooking and come up with something. You know, it's kind of like, it can be like the MacGyver, sort of like, you know, the Swiss Army knife of cooking. It's just kind of like what tools I have or what I have, I'm going to make something out of. One of my favorite things to make is literally a ramen with a soft boiled egg and some furikake on it, like something like that. But just like taking things I have and just making something out of it. I don't necessarily go with a recipe. It just depends. Like I have done a little bit more, like the last couple of weeks I did my own homemade sushi, but I made 2 meals out of the whole sushi. So like, rewarding myself is by expanding it. So I'll get probably about $50 worth of stuff, which is about still cheaper than going out for the sushi for one night. Even I will take 2, like maybe I'll get like 4 different types of like fish or items to use in the sushi. But one night I'll do sushi, the next night I'll do a poke bowl, and you're just slightly changing it up. I got the restaurant to sell me the spicy mayo, and I'm making my own poke bowls at home, and I'm using tamago as part of it, and I'm using salmon and tuna. I mean, it's great and fun, and it gives me it gives me that like release and that kind of like since we're stuck in the house, it's nice. That's kind of what the whole bread trend was, you know? It's kind of a way to like, oh, let's go make bread. And so we had to run on yeast for a while. So it's kind of ironic how a lot of stuff like just changed. I mean, I haven't really made bread, but I think my wife made bread and it was great. But what it has shown us is that creativity, I think it will help us in the long run, like creativity with the restaurant scene and all that stuff.
Even pre-COVID, I've always loved trying different foods, sometimes making some. So for me, it wasn't about more of, I didn't like all of a sudden say, ooh, I'm going to try something new because I've always wanted to. It's more of, oh, I have more time now. Let's explore some stuff that I was already interested in. So I don't think I made anything necessarily completely new that I wouldn't have made before. It's just more of, now that I have more time, we're basically spending less time at restaurants, so let's make more food at home. The interesting thing is the whole bread trend. I've made bread before, and I was actually planning on kind of making some more bread. I'd like to at some point, but there was actually a bakery that popped up a little before COVID. Luckily, they still survived, so we just kind of basically bought bread from them. One, to support them, and two, they genuinely had really good bread, different topics that I've not tried to put in bread before, so we just loved it, and we just, throughout this whole pandemic, we've just basically bought bread from them, buy local, and honestly, I don't know if your guys' city has this, but this is, well, there's I think 2 or 3 now bakeries that we have local that are owned by Latino families, I think, and they're really good. I love them. So
Yeah, those are the best.
To transition this topic a little bit, I'm thinking let's talk about the food delivery services. And like we're talking more like the HelloFresh and the Blue Aprons and the different Sunbasket. That's another new one with this. It has an organic focus. I think that's also becoming more trending, and it was already becoming a trend, but now maybe it's even becoming more important because of what our constrictions have been. These companies are becoming more profitable in some ways. So does anyone else have a thought on that?
I think there is still room in that marketplace for a true budget-friendly version of those. I hate to sound, put down that, but those are the elite food programs for now, right? Blue Apron, they cater to a specific audience. I would like to see the open market of prepared meals for, I don't even want to say the cost conscious, just the lower middle class, or even people who really just don't have that same kind of income or had to change in a huge way from the pandemic or even prior. I think there might be that open market for that. So there you go, guys. Business idea.
One thing you have to think about this also, it's kind of like a restaurant alternative too, because a lot of them are doing you don't have to actually cook it. They have it it's pre-made and you just heat it up, and it's almost like the restaurant alternative. And it could be actually slightly cheaper than going to a restaurant because you don't necessarily have to tip somebody, and it comes on your schedule and it's already pre-delivered. But I see the Targets and the Krogers and all that stuff. They're doing that. That's who's going to do it. They might relabel the service because they already have the products on hand.
Exactly.
They already have the departments. They probably have baking departments, and like people aren't ordering cakes as much. You know what I mean? They have the space for stuff like this. If they could just pre-do some of this stuff, and they already have the pre-made meals, but if they make it more into a meal kit that you can just pick up with a bag and go, and you could probably do it a lot cheaper since you already have that big of a span, and you're not trying to come in there and also go through a supplier. I see those people are the ones doing.
Like basically the Targets and Kroger's and grocery stores in general, they've already done this to an extent with pot roast. I don't know if you guys ever bought or made pot roast, but a lot of times, like, I usually just buy the ingredients separately myself because I like to choose what I want to put in there. But a lot of times, even years ago, before, anyone ever thought of COVID or anything at all, or these meal kits, there was always a section in the meat aisle for pot roast where instead of choosing your own meat and then veggies for the pot roast, it's like, here's this package that has everything you need in it for a pot roast. I don't think they ever realized that it was supposed to be this meal kit thing that we have nowadays, but that's always been there.
And I think, Stas, to piggyback off of that, I think variations of that are done in a well done way by some of those like Costco's or Sam's Club with those taco spreads or whatever like that for kind of like a group. But I would definitely like to see those sectioned off into like a 5-day spread so it can still stay fresh, but you already know, hey, my meals are covered for the week. I don't have to worry. I can just throw it in my fridge. They're ready. That's just something that I think there's that sphere there that, yes, they do hearty platters and stuff like that at these, regular grocery stores like a, Kroger or any of your other local grocery stores. But I think they need to get into that because that's definitely an untapped market for them. And I think, Mike, that's the best, way of getting that out there. It's just those local grocery chains.
We're going back to the topic last time, the pickup and delivery model and stuff. That's just easy. It's just you throw it right in there. I mean, you're right. The Costco taco bar. Oh my God, it's the best. I mean, it's just so convenient, and I'm already there already. I just get a bunch of it, and I have a couple days worth of lunches and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily need the whole thing. But what if I could have them already pre-sectioned up and give me a box of stuff and says, okay, what do I want? And I just put it in the box, and then when I get there, I pick it up and it's ready to go.
This makes me think of something even cooler. Modular weekly meals. You could have 5 days a week that you get to choose from. So you know how there's the pick your own beer areas in grocery stores or whatever? Mm-hmm. Instead of getting a 6-pack of beer, you get a 5-pack of meals. You can get a little bit of Asian food, some Hispanic food, Italian, whatever. And, that could be a cool idea.
You know what the problem is? A lot of this stuff's already out there in a slightly meal delivery version, but it's in the weight loss sector. It's just not in the meal sector, but you could do that. It's almost like that idea behind the cell phone, the modular cell phone, where you can change parts out when you want to.
Exactly. I mean, you can get creative in any grocery stores if you're listening. That's just an idea. And guys, we've all seen the grocery stores really progress and evolve as the world has drastically changed since last year. So I think we're going to see a lot of new ideas like that coming through.
No, I mean, I think, as I said, this year, yes, it's not been the greatest, but it's sparked a lot of innovation, and it's stuff that was already happening. It's already accelerated these services anyway. It was already a trend that was happening. So I say yes. People are afraid of everything being digitized, but you're never going to replace people in a lot of things. And with a lot of these meal prep things, you still need people to prep it, and you need to have people like input and all that stuff. And that's where our jobs are going to come. They might be a little more skilled when it comes to that stuff. I mean, who says that the idea of the automat doesn't come back? I mean, I know that came back a little bit like in the 2000s, but who says that doesn't come back again, in a more of a local establishment, where you have the automat and you can just literally come back, come in there and like pre-order what you want. And then it comes out a slot and you don't have to touch anything. I mean, Japan has it all in there with the vending machine. The vending machine idea is not bad, but more of a store format of a vending machine and pre-ordering of things. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys for joining us at the Rewarded Consumer Podcast. Hopefully this information is very rewarding and you can use this to your advantage. Maybe more restaurants are going to offer more rewards programs for patronizing the business. I could see that also being another trend this year. I mean, I think restaurants have been doing that for years, but maybe it's a new hybrid model of that because there's also services for that. So that could be another topic for another time. But thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rewarded Consumer Podcast. If you like what you're hearing, please follow us on our Instagram or Facebook pages under the name Rewarded Consumer Podcast, or send us a direct email at rewardedconsumer@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and find out about what topics our listeners would like to hear more about in the future.